If you don't really know what you're talking about, which I think matches a lot of the clients that we face when it comes to AI.
Well, they certainly have doubts as to how to proceed.
Yeah. So it's the what. They don't know what do we want, right? What should we want? Okay. They have this pressure, FOMO, fear of missing out. And then on the other hand, even less, they don't know how. So they're in that house of pain. And actually the advice, if you're in a house of pain, is you shouldn't be the first mover. You should sit it out, let everybody else make the mistakes and learn from their mistakes, right? And then you'll have a return of investment. Do you think that's a valid strategy?
I think that's in general a valid strategy, especially if you don't have money to lose. Right?
Yeah.
If you can throw money at it and continue making mistakes, in that case, then of course, no. Then you want to be the first one. Yeah. But why not? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Observe everybody else and learn from their mistakes. Not to mention that many of we're not talking about first movers anymore. Yeah. Many of small and medium companies, if these are the ones that we're mainly focusing on, they are already second movers, right? The stuff has already been done. They don't need to invent anything. So we would already be a little bit.
Okay,
it's
so we're
chaotic for them.
It's chaotic for them, but there's people who understand the complexity, and can bring them into that area of complexity and maybe guide them through, so it becomes. So how would you, if you were to advise a medium-sized company that comes to you and say, Max, what do we need to do to become AI literate, or AI functional would probably be more important than AI literate, because AI literate is a passive process.
So first of all, there are different paths that you follow, right? So what we would do is we would evaluate their current maturity level and then decide what gaps they have, where do they want to go, the usual thing. But the point is, at the very beginning, if you are at the very beginning, then the first thing that needs to happen is that you need to develop a certain sense of comfort with it. So you need to start using it. And you can use it on a lot of relatively simple tasks. However, then what typically happens is that the next step is look at your production processes, identify pain points, and ask yourself, how can AI help you there? And while this is a very useful and helpful step, it often ends up being the conclusion of the work, right? We've identified that we can speed up process A by using AI, process B we can eliminate some waste or whatever. And that's certainly helpful, but it's not going to give you an ROI that you're going to be happy with. And instead, very often, that's exactly where we stop. Instead, this step of identifying potential areas of improvement within an existing process is just a temporary stepping stone. The real value that you get from introducing AI is by looking at your processes and overhauling the whole process through the usage of AI. So you're saying, how would I do the whole thing if I have the instruments to use AI on it? And this changes the actual processes. So corporate processes need to change in order to make the most of AI. You can't just speed up point A and empower point B. That's just a temporary patch. You really need to change the actual processes. Earlier you were mentioning the fact that we work in training and in helping development, right? So that's a very obvious example. If what you're saying is, I can take lesson A, and since it's just knowledge base, I can let you interact with an AI and learn from there. That's nice. That's cute, right? But it doesn't change the system that you're looking at. And what you end up with is people are frustrated because they have less work, because they don't know what their future is going to be, and so on and so on. Instead, if you take the whole learning ecosystem and rebuild it using AI, you end up with an ecosystem which looks completely different. We don't have a class anymore, but you still have human beings who support the professionals in our case, right? Only they support them from a coaching perspective, they support them in much more value-based ways. So essentially you're rebuilding the way of working, not fixing this, fixing that.
Yeah. You're coming at it from kind of from a high level, which I think is appropriate. If you're coming into the company, I think you should start at the top and start asking questions. What are your expectations? What's your vision? What's your strategy? Where do you want to go with this? What do you want to even optimize? What are some of the guiding principles?
Where is value in your organization?
Yeah, where is there a potential? So it's kind of an executive approach, the top down, which I think, and there's this model that I picked up. I think it was from PMO, PMI's PMO model. I picked it up. This concept that you can probably make more layers, but you have the strategic level, you have the tactical or functional level, and you have the operational level. And each has its own needs and has its own structure and its own guidance.
Yeah.
If I may, let me share an example of a medium-sized multinational company that I recently came across. They're very ambitious when it comes to AI, at least from a visionary perspective. Their board members have communicated publicly already that they're committed and they're on the forefront of AI thoughts, and they're buying up AI companies, and they've already integrated AI into the products that they provide to their clients. And I had the opportunity to, on an operational and on a tactical level, meet some of their project managers and some of the people that are working with it, right?
They have no idea.
And like I said, we have this wonderful manifesto that the company's basically written of what we're committed to. And I read it and I was like so excited. And the first thing I did is I went into the group and said, does anybody know this manifesto? And people were like, no.
What?
I said, let me share it with you. Let me tell you what your boss is saying. Which I'm not making fun of it. It's funny, but I'm not making fun of it. I think it's a normal.
Why not? It deserves being made fun of, right?
It's normal, right? So, and it kind of alludes to an issue that I've seen many times in my consulting career, that the idea kind of springs out and there's all sorts of wonderful castles in the sky, pie in the sky ideas, which is valuable. We need that. We really need that. And then, so you have a top down, and then there's a kind of initiative bottom up, right? And I asked them, I said, well, which AI tools do you use? And there were like, I think 2 or 3 that were sanctioned, that I was told about. And then I found out there was like many other ones, right? And it was really refreshing. And we kind of were sharing use cases, who uses what for what, but there was no uniformity and there was no governance. And I didn't think it was a negative phenomenon. I think it's just a normal phenomenon that when you're dealing with such a transformative new technology,